Hello everyone and welcome back to NetTouch. In this quick tip we're going to discuss how to detect CSS3 properties, or really any CSS properties with JavaScript. So let's say you need to test whether or not the box shadow property is available in the current browser. Well, as you know, in IE it won't be, but in the modern browsers like Firefox and Chrome it is. So we're going to use JavaScript to detect that. If you need a more comprehensive solution you could use something like Modernizer, but here we're just going to build a simple helper function that'll take care of mostly what we need. So let's go into our page, and as always we start with a clean slate. And the first thing I want to show you is let's view this blank page in the browser. And if I go into Firebug, and let's just take a look at the body element, and if I go into the DOM, you're going to see there's this style available to me. And if I open this up, this is all the stuff that we have available to us. If I scroll down, you can see it has all of the CSS in it, border style, as well as the vendor prefixes. Like let's say we're looking for border radius, we're going to look for Moz border, wherever it is, Moz border radius. So what we can then do with JavaScript is say if Moz border radius, and notice how each word is capitalized. It's not dash Moz dash border. Anyhow, we're going to say if Moz border radius exists within style, then we know we can use it, right? So let's go back, and within script tags, let's test this out. And we're going to write a full function, but we're going to start very simple now. And we're just going to create an if statement, and we're going to say if, and we'll call it Moz box shadow is in document.body.style alert good. All right, let's try that out. And we do get good. So we know right off the bat that will work. So if I try to test for something that doesn't exist, you're not going to get anything. So if I refresh, you're not going to get anything. And we can even do an else alert, and we're just using alert statements. That's fine. Does not. Okay, so now that we can test that Moz box shadow doesn't exist, but anything else will exist. Another way you might see this done is creating an element. So create a div, and then you kind of perform a cavity search on the div and find out what's available to you. So that's the basic idea. But then, what if the user browses in WebKit? Well, this is going to fail, and we're going to assume that shadows aren't available to them, but it is, just via a different vendor prefix. So we need to compensate for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin building our function. The first step is we're going to give it a name of supports. And I'm going to make this a wrapping function. So function, this is an executing function. So what this means is right when the page loads, it's going to come to supports, and it's going to go ahead and run this function. Notice that we're wrapping it, and then we're calling it. So the reason I'm doing that is because I want to perform some tasks only once. There's no need to call a function and perform the exact same tasks every single time when you can do it one time. So that's what we're going to do here. And it's not overly necessary, but it'll save a small fraction of time. So we're going to create a div. Rather than working with the body, let's just create an element that we can work with. So I'm going to say document.create element, and we're going to create a div. And this is the element that we're going to test and determine what's available to us. The next thing I want to do is always declare your variables at the top if you can. So the next thing is I'm going to create a vendors variable as well as a length variable, and we'll figure out what those are later. Don't worry about those yet. So now we've done our prep work. You can add any more prep work you want up here. And then when you're ready, you can return a function. And this function is going to accept a property that we pass. So it always helps me to first figure out how I'm going to call the function. So what I want to do here is something like this. If supports box shadow, then, you know, do whatever we need to. Alert does. Something like that. So up here, prop will then be represented by box shadow or whatever you pass in. So what's helpful about this is now supports is not equal to this. The supports function is equal to this. So this way we can run this information once. We don't need to create an element every single time. Okay, so let's go back in, and this function, the first thing we're going to do is test it. So we're going to say right off the bat, if the property name, or if box shadow, is in div.style. Remember, some browsers support the native property name. So for instance, border radius, IE9 and Safari 5 support border radius. They don't need WebKit border radius. So we're going to do this right off the bat bat and save time. If it's in the style, go ahead and return true. When we return true, we run this supports test, and we're pretty much saying if true, then alert does. But if it does not, we're going to return false. And if false, this will never run. Okay, so that's good for that. The next step is, if we went back, remember how I said to note that everything begins with a capital letter, so you'll have Moz box. So for instance, that would pass, but something like Moz box would not pass. So it needs to be uppercase. So what we're going to do here is test to see if the user accidentally did it like this with camel casing. So we can do a quick replace function, and this is just a helper. So we're going to say prop equals and then prop.replace, and we need to pass in a regular expression here. And all we're going to do is search to see if the first letter in the string is lowercase, and if it is, let's just make it uppercase. So we can test the first letter by using the caret symbol, which means the beginning of the string, and we're going to test for, we're going to run a character class, and this is going to look for any lowercase letter, and that's it. So this following function here will only run assuming that the first letter of this string is lowercase. If it's uppercase, this will never run because there was no match. Now, val is going to be equal to the letter that was matched. So in this case, val will be equal to the letter B. But remember, if it's an uppercase B at the beginning, this will never run. So in this case, we're going to return. And how do we turn a letter to uppercase? We do to uppercase. So now at this point, we fixed it. So even if they make a mistake and they do box shadow undercase, we're going to fix it and turn it into an uppercase B, or an uppercase first letter. Okay, the next step is the vendors. So we have lots of vendor prefixes that we can work with. So we have, for instance, Microsoft. They're beginning to add their own vendor prefixes. WebKit, Opera, WebKit, and these are the extensions. So you might be used to dash WebKit, -o, -moz, something like that. So now I'm being very lazy here and I'm splitting them into an array, but what you'd probably do is create an array. But this the split function just tells you what to use as the separator. So here I'm just saying take the string and turn it into an array, and each key is going to be referenced by this space. So for instance, Microsoft is one first item in the array, second item, third item, fourth item. It's just a lazy way to create an array. Okay, the next step is take that length variable that we created at the top, and as you'd expect, we're just going to make that equal to the total number of items in the array. Or if we want, we could even hard code it in, since we know we're not going to have many more. But, like, you know, you could even do KHTML. That's for Conqueror. So we'll keep it dynamic and do vendors.length. Okay, so now we need to filter through it. So we're going to say while length minus minus. So this means we could use a for statement, but the order doesn't really matter in this case. So in this case, we'll just use a while statement as it's fractionally faster. So we're going to say run a while statement, and every time decrease the value of length, which would be 4, then 3, then 2, etc. So we're going to say if vendors length. So what is that equal to? Go to the vendors array and get the first one. So here we'd be saying vendors length is moz. So we're saying pretty much if moz plus prop. So moz plus prop. Prop is equal to box shadow. So we're saying if moz box shadow in div.style. In that case, we will return true because it's available to us. And that should be fine. So then we'll return false here at the bottom. Okay, so let's go over this one last time. We're going to go through this while statement, and it's going to go through each item. Or not each item, it depends. So the first time, let's say we're testing for moz box shadow. Okay, so it's going to say if moz box shadow is available within this div.style, then we know the browser supports box shadow. So we're going to return true. Now, what if it does not? What if it's something like text stroke? We're checking to see if text stroke is available to us. Well, in this case, it would run if moz text stroke in div.style. No, Firefox does not support that. Only WebKit does. So that's going to be false. So it's going to run again. And this time we're going to look at WebKit because length decreases each time. So now we're going to say if WebKit text stroke in div.style, and in that case it is true. So we're going to return true. So now we run this function, and this will either return true or false. So we're saying if true, do something. If false, we're not doing anything. So in this case, that's pretty much our function. So now let's say if supports text stroke, and then why don't we add a class? That's kind of a common thing. Document.document element, that's going to get the HTML parent tag, and we're going to set the class name, and we could be official about this, but I'm going to be lazy and just add a space. And the reason this is because what if there's already a class name on your HTML element? If you don't append to it, it'll override it. So there's more intricate ways to do this, but we're not going to get into that in this quick tip. So let's test this out. The first thing I want to do here is do something I know Firefox has. And did we have an alert here somewhere? I don't think so. Okay, so now if I go in, now you can see a class of text shadow was applied. So here's the thing worth noting though. Here we're testing for it lowercase. Remember here when we fixed it? Let's get rid of that or comment it out. And now if I refresh the page, it's not going to be added because it needs to be uppercase. And now it gets added. So that's why we did that quick replacement, just to be nice and whoa. There we go. So now let's go back to text stroke and see what we get. So I'm going to go into Firefox again, refresh the page, and text stroke is not supported in Firefox. But if we go into a WebKit browser, let's check out Chrome and inspect element. Now you can see the class is equal to text shadow, and you see we do have that space here, so you would probably want to be a little more formal, and there are functions that will allow you to work with that, but it'll be fine for now. So let's go back and let's go into our project, and I'm going to change this back to text shadow. And I refresh the page, sure enough, now it's been added. But if we go into a browser where it's not supported, it won't be added. So let's try another one, and we're going to change this to text stroke, right? So we're going to go in here and add a new class of text stroke to the HTML element. And let's go in here. So what text stroke allows us to do, and did I get that right? Text stroke, yeah. Yeah, what text stroke allows us to do is outline. So text, and right now I know I need to do the prefix. So WebKit text stroke, and we're going to do 2 pixels red, something like that. So let's run this in Chrome. And now we have that text stroke, and it doesn't look very good at all, does it? So we can make that look a little bit better. Let's go in here, and we're going to make the color equal to black, text stroke. Actually, let's do this. Text stroke, 2 pixels, and then the color is going to be white. Yeah, and then if we do font size, 70 pixels, font family, Helvetica, Arial, sans serif. Yeah, and now you get this kind of cool text outline. But if we go back into Firefox, that's not going to be applied. If I refresh the page, you can see. And the reason is because we're only targeting that specific class name. In this case, we tested, and we said if text stroke is supported, let's add a class. So now we can target only the browsers that have text stroke support. And then, if you wanted to do something else for Firefox, just to give you a proof of concept, that would be in any other browser. And don't focus so much on Firefox versus Chrome. It's just any browser that supports it. So in browsers that don't support text stroke, you'll do one thing. And in the browsers that do support text stroke, you can do something else. So you could have a background image for old browsers. And the ones that support this, you could just use text stroke right out of the box. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. Feel free to take a look at this, improve it, let me know your thoughts. And for more tips and tutorials, always visit net.touchplus.com. My name is Jeffrey Way, and I will see you guys later. Bye.